They came with torches before the first hard freeze. Wade Trask led them, and he didn't come to bargain.
This land won't ever be yours, Samuel. Not while I am standing on it.
The men behind him laughed. Not at a joke, just at the idea that Samuel had ever thought this land could be his.
They can burn the wood, but the earth is still here.
Samuel didn't speak. He gathered his children, and the hand spade, the one thing they hadn't touched.
Pa, the cabin's gone.
I know, son, but we've got the ground. And the ground don't care what color a man is.
I am cold, Pa.
We'll be warm soon, little bird, down where the cold can't find us.
He walked toward the river, not yet knowing if the earth would take him in. But it was the only direction left. By the time they reached the high riverbank, the smoke from the claim was only a stain on the sky.
This bank'll do. The face is steep. The earth won't tumble.
He drove the spade into the frozen ground. The blade skittered off ice, but he struck again.
Isaac, take Bess and keep watch. Mabel, stay where you can see me.
He carved the earth like a man shaping a promise, each swing digging towards something the fire hadn't stolen.
Why won't the men leave us alone?
They think the ground can't hold anything but roots. They're wrong.
This clay is frozen, but once it thaws against the stove, it'll set like stone.
The boy carried dirt away until the hole yawned black in the white bank.
Tomorrow, we'll dig the chimney. The smoke needs somewhere to climb.
By the third day, the hole had become a room. Low, dark, but deep enough to stand.
We'll shape the stove from this bank's own clay. It'll hold heat better than any iron box.
He packed the clay around a tin pipe, molding a chimney that rose through the earthen ceiling.
It's not much wood, but the heat stays.
Look here. The rabbit's dug himself a burrow. Guess he knows his place now.
Let them laugh. A burrow keeps the cold out better than their drafty cabins ever will.
The riders wheeled away, still chuckling. Bess barked at their heels until the snow swallowed their shapes.
A little mud here, and the wind won't find a single crack.
Will they come back, Pa?
Not tonight, little bird. Eat and let the earth keep you warm.
The next morning, Samuel pushed deeper into the back wall, needing room before the real cold set in.
A few more feet, and we'll have a proper sleeping alcove.
The spade punched through, not into dense clay, but into empty black air.
That's no rock, that's a hollow.
He widened a hole and held the lamp inside. The tunnel was dry, twisting deeper, lined with old gnawed wood.
Isaac, bring more light. The riverbank had other tenants before us.
Samuel crawled through the winding passage until it opened into a modest chamber, the floor packed smooth by creatures long gone.
A second room, and the air is cold enough to keep meat from spoiling. We can widen it, turn this old beaver lodge into a cold store and a sleeping nook.
Nobody'll call it a rabbit hole now.
For 2 more days, Samuel and Isaac widened the beaver's ancient burrow, carving a second room from the bank.
The dirt is softer here. Those beavers did half the work for us.
They carved a ledge for a rough table and ringed the cold store alcove with packed snow.
Dried fish and roots in here will keep until spring.
Then Samuel fitted a salvaged plank door to the entrance, sealing the gap with frozen mud.
Pa, look, the sky's got feathers.
The first flakes drifted down, fat and heavy, as the wind turned sharp against the chimney pipe.
Inside, now. This is the beginning of what Trask and his men will face above ground.
They closed the door against the thickening air, the chimney smoke bending north.
It's starting, isn't it, Pa?
It is, son. But 3 feet of earth hold the heat better than any log wall.
He pressed a finger of frozen mud into the last hairline crack, sealing the room tight.
If the wind can't move, it can't steal the warmth.
Outside, the snow fell thicker, and the wind began to hunt, pressing against the bank, searching for an opening.
It sounds angry, Pa.
Angry can't get in here, little bird. Only cold tries, and we've already stopped it.
Then, the first full gust struck the door like a fist. The plank shuddered, but the mud held.
The earth don't shake like wood, it stays.
The blizzard had arrived. Not as snow, but as a roaring wall of wind that flattened everything above ground.
Now, we'll see what a burrow is worth.
The blizzard swallowed the world whole. The riverbank became a white wall, and the wind screamed across the drifts like a living thing.
Hear that? The earth cuts the roar to a whisper. No cabin I've ever slept in could do that.
He placed his palm flat against the wall. The clay was cool, but no draft slipped through.
3 feet of dirt above us. It's like being buried alive, but in the best way.
Mabel had already fallen asleep against Bess's warm flank, her small breath steady. Outside, the chimney coughed a faint orange against the whiteout, the only sign the earth still held life.
Pa, do you think Trask is out in this?
Maybe. But that's not ours to fret over. Right now, we're the only ones who are warm.
He added a branch to the stove and watched the flame climb. The dugout's pulse.
They laughed at a burrow. But this burrow will still be here when their roofs cave in.
The blizzard showed no sign of breaking. The dugout held steady, but the wind kept up its search along the bank.
Pa, tell us a story. The one about Grandpa and the well.
All right. Your grandpa dug 30 feet by hand, said the earth never lies. It's just slow to give up its secrets.
He spoke low, the tale a quiet rhythm against the storm's distant fury. Then Bess whined, her ears flat. Samuel paused. The dog had sensed something beyond the walls.
Nothing but the wind. Still, let me check the beaver room.
The tunnel was ice cold, but the air was still. The frost on the earthen walls was dry as dust.
Trask and his men, they'd be crawling toward the nearest spark if they're still alive.
The thought stuck, unwanted. He pushed it aside and returned to the fire's glow.
Story time's over. Get some sleep, son.
Out on the open prairie, Wade, Trask, and his 2 riders were no longer laughing. Their horses foundered in drifts deeper than a man's chest.
We're lost. I can't find the ridgeline.
The cold had already stolen the feeling from their feet. Frostbite crept across their faces like white fire.
We won't last another hour out here.
Then a rider grabbed Wade's arm and pointed. Through the wall of blowing snow, a faint orange pulse of chimney smoke.
Smoke. Someone's got a fire.
They turned their stumbling mounts toward the only light in the world, the dugout chimney lost in the whiteout.
That glow is near the riverbank. Must be the rabbit's burrow, but it's shelter.
The horses balked at the deep drifts, but the men dragged them forward, each step a battle against the wind.
Keep moving. That smoke's our only chance.
The men stumbled into the riverbank's shadow, blinking ice from their eyes. A dark mouth in the snowbank, smoke still fighting the wind.
That's the rabbit hole, the one we laughed at.
They could barely stand. Wade pressed a shaking hand against the spade-cut entrance edge and knew at once whose work this was.
He dug this with his own hands, and now it's our only chance.
He raised his fist and pounded on the plank door. The sound was lost in the wind, but inside, it hit like a hammer. Inside, Samuel's hand stopped halfway to the stove handle. The children sat up, eyes wide.
Pa, someone's knocking.
That's no branch. That's a knock.
The knocking came again, frantic. Bess rose, a low growl rumbling in her chest.
Stay back. Don't move.
Samuel crept to the door. Through a split in the plank, he saw a face twisted by frost and fear.
For God's sake, open up. We're dying out here.
Wade Trask, the man who said I'd never have land. Now he's knocking on my door.
The memory came sharp as a blade. The burning claim, Trask's silhouette against the flames, and the laughter, Rabbit, they'd called him, carried on the wind.
Pa, who's out there?
The ones who drove us off.
the bad men?
He could still hear the laughter from that day. Now the laugher begged, his voice cracked with cold.
They don't deserve the dirt on my boots, but those boots are warm.
His hand hovered over the latch. The children pressed closer, and in the heavy silence, he made no move.
If I don't open it, I am no better than what they tried to make me.
He lifted the latch. The wind snatched the door and flung it wide, snow blasting inward. Wade Trask pitched forward, his frozen hands grabbing at the doorframe. Samuel caught him and dragged him clear. Then the other two stumbled in behind, their bodies stiff as deadwood. Samuel crowded them toward the stove's faint glow.
Pa, you let them in?
Bess snarled, a low threat rumbling in her chest. Samuel pressed a hand to her head without turning.
Easy, girl. They're not threats now, just cold.
The men collapsed against the earthen walls, gasping. Frostbite whited their cheeks, and snow still clung to their clothes.
Get to the stove. Don't touch nothing.
He sealed the door shut against the storm, enclosing them all in the burro's breath. The men huddled around the stove, their shaking hands outstretched. The firelight flickered on faces, half frozen and wholly ashamed.
We didn't know the storm would hit like this.
No one ever does. That's why you build for it. So the earth can hold you when nothing else will.
Samuel broke the last of the dried fish into pieces and held them out. The men stared, as if the food were a trap.
Why? After what we did.
Because I've been hungry, and I won't let even a dog go hungry in a storm.
He didn't answer. He just set the food on the blanket between them, then leaned back against the earthen wall. They ate in silence, the only sound the groan of the wind and the crackle of the stove. Wade kept his eyes on the flames, as if they might offer forgiveness he'd never asked for.
Pa, why are they here?
Storm doesn't pick favorites, son.
The blizzard hammered on without mercy, but inside the dugout, the air held its warmth. The earthen walls drank the cold and kept the stillness. The men gradually stopped shivering. They looked around at the hand-carved space as if seeing it for the first time.
You built this with a spade, no mill, no nails?
Spade and sweat. The land gave the rest.
Wade stared at the packed clay above him, the careful arch of the ceiling, the smoke hole bored straight to the sky. The silence that followed was heavier than the wind.
We'd be frozen solid by now, dead on the prairie.
One of the other men coughed and looked away. The third simply closed his eyes, as if the weight of the unspoken had finally pressed him down.
It survived worse than this storm. It'll survive a few more nights.
Had a cabin once. Log walls, good timber. Wind cut right through it. This is something else.
Maybe now he understands. It's not the wood, it's the earth that keeps a man.
Slowly, the blizzard's fury began to dull. The wind still wept along the bank, but the hammering against the door had finally eased. One by one, the exhausted men slumped into sleep. Bess snored softly at Mabel's feet, the girl's small hand resting on her fur.
They called me a rabbit. Now the rabbit's burrow keeps them from freezing.
He rose quietly and checked the Beaver Lodge tunnel. The cold store held steady, its frost unbroken. Isaac and Mabel slept on, their faces peaceful despite the cramped room and the strangers sharing their warmth.
In the morning, they'll leave. Maybe nothing will change, but I'll know what I did.
The stove's embers pulsed a dull orange. Samuel fed it a last branch, watching the flame take hold. Through a crack in the door, a faint gray line appeared, dawn pushing against the piled snow. The blizzard's spine was broken. The burrow had outlasted the worst of it.
Another hour, and they'll wake. Then we'll see what kind of men they really are.
Morning light pried through the snow. Samuel heaved against the door until it groaned open, spilling white into the dugout. The men stumbled out, shielding their eyes. Near the riverbank, they found their horses, frozen where they'd fallen the night before.
They're gone. We'll be walking then.
Follow the river downstream. There's a timber camp. 2 days.
Wade stood a moment longer, the chimney smoke twisting behind him. Then he spoke, the words seeming to cost him something.
I reckon we owe you.
You can pay by remembering what it feels like to be on the wrong side of a door.
The other men shifted, avoiding his eyes. Wade gave a short nod, then turned and started into the snow. Samuel watched them go, Bess's flank steady against his knee. The dog whined, but he didn't call them back. Their figures grew small and finally vanished into the glare of the trampled white. The men walked half a day, following the river's frozen bend. Then they crested a low ridge and stopped.
That's our place.
The cabin they had left standing was now a pile of shattered logs, its roof punched through by the snow's weight. One wall had buckled outward. The door they'd built to keep others out lay half buried in a drift. Wade stood, staring at the wreckage, his breath a white cloud in the still air. The confidence he had worn was gone.
We thought that cabin would hold. We thought it was strong. He dug into the earth, and the earth held. We built above it, and the wind took everything.
He turned and looked back the way they had come. Across the white plains, a thin column of chimney smoke rose from the riverbank, unwavering.
The rabbit's burrow outlasted our house.
The other men said nothing. They just looked at the smoke, then at the ruins, and understood something that couldn't be put into words. Back at the riverbank, Samuel stood alone on the trampled snow, the dugout's chimney threading a steady plume against the empty sky.
They'll walk a long time, but they'll walk, and maybe they'll remember.
He ducked inside, the warmth folding around him like a blanket. The oil lamp threw soft shadows on the curved earthen walls. Isaac and Mabel were laughing, rolling a ball of scrap wool across the floor. Bess wagged her tail, nudging it back.
Papa, we made a game. The room's so big now.
I put the last fish in the cold store. We've got enough for weeks.
Good. That old beaver lodge is keeping us fed and warm. It's not a burrow anymore. It's a home.
The clay stove hummed a quiet heat, and the earthen roof absorbed the last moan of the dying wind. The dugout had outlasted the storm, and it would outlast many more. The rabbit's burrow was still standing. The spade that had carved a home from frozen earth now rested against the wall, its blade worn bright by clay. Above the dugout, the snow-laden bank bore a mark no storm could erase, a red arrow scrawled by Samuel the day he first broke ground. He had painted it, not as a boast, but as a direction, a reminder that home is where the earth keeps you. From the open prairie, only the chimney smoke betrayed the life beneath the tall grass. Nearby, a rabbit poked its head from a smaller burrow, a mirror of the larger home, carved a few hundred feet away. The oldest plains survival structure, the earthen dugout, had outlasted the houses built to keep Samuel out. Wade Trask's cabin was a pile of timber. Samuel's was a piece of the riverbank. Injustice had not had the final word. The earth doesn't care about titles or deeds, only about who works it, and the one who worked it stayed. While those who laughed were left to learn what the ground had always known. The dugout would watch many winters crack the prairie, and it would not move. As the snow melted into the river, Samuel hung a proper wooden door on the entrance, carved with a simple star.
Papa, the flowers are coming up. Little yellow ones.
Isaac chased Bess through the tall grass while Mabel gathered petals to press between the pages of her only book.
They're not afraid anymore. This place is theirs now, not just mine.
The earthen home, once a desperate refuge, now stood among wildflowers with its chimney smoking lazily into the warm sky.
Come on, little birds. Let's eat by the river.
They sat on a blanket, the dugout's door open behind them, and looked at the river running clear.
Pa, do you think we'll ever build a cabin again?
Maybe someday. But for now, the earth is enough. It's always been enough.
And in the quiet of that spring afternoon, the dugout was no longer a burrow, but a testament. Evening settled over the riverbank, painting the sky in violet and gold. Bess lay at the entrance, her head on her paws, eyes watching the horizon. A few 100 feet away, a rabbit emerged from its own burrow, ears erect, sniffing the spring air. The two dwellings, one made by instinct, the other by will, sat silently in the same earth. The chimney smoke drifted into the darkening sky, the only sign of life among the vast, quiet hills. Not everyone who is driven out stays out. Some dig in, and the ground holds them. The burrow was still there, a dark shape in the bank, warm light flickering within. Bess lifted her head once, as if listening, then settled again. The prairie stretched into silence, and the dugout stood, an echo of endurance, a home carved from nothing. A rabbit's burrow, they'd called it, and they were right, in the oldest, truest way. The earth does not forget what is dug into it. It keeps the shape, even after the spade is still. A man can be driven from a house, but not from the ground if he's willing to dig in. Samuel's door was open that night, but no strangers came, only the stars. He had built a place where the wind could not find him, and in doing so, found something the fire could not take. Grace does not forget. It waits in the earth for someone willing to share its warmth. The story of Samuel spread not in newspapers, but in the quiet nods of those who understood. A man, a spade, a riverbank. That was all it took, and when the last light drained from the sky, the chimney still smoked. The burrow outlasted the storm, the cold, and the men who had come with torches. It was, in the end, just a piece of the earth, but it was his.